afternoon, friends. Stephen and Yana Vanoon with Israeli News Live. And we have a very special and unique guest on today, Audrey Henson. And Audrey, I picked up on one of her videos, which you guys already know. I shared some of the clips there with you, where she was talking about the Florida's notorious new prison system that Trump was so kind to build for the state of Florida, known as Alligator Alcatraz. And this young woman has done an amazing job in putting together some thoughts for people to consider. Uh, that the more you watch her videos, the more it really challenges your mind to do some serious thinking there. So, Audrey, we want to welcome you to our broadcast here, and if you can share a little bit about yourself with us, and also I know you have a new YouTube channel, TikTok, a lot of videos on TikTok, but so people will know how to be able to find your work.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, both of you. Yeah, on YouTube, you can find me under Audrey Henson AI, I believe is the user, or Audrey Henson is my name. And on TikTok, I go by Drey, or my at is un_original sins. So, just to keep it as confusing as possible and non-coherent for everybody. But yeah, no, it's thank you for I a lot of people who came over to my YouTube channel said they came from one of your videos, and so I was glad we were able to connect.
Yes, thank you. So, one of the things that you'd brought up in your video, and because my wife, she's there's actually a couple of things that she's really hit hard on that is interesting in the respect of where you looked at Florida as a possibility, especially when we're looking at um, Governor Ron DeSantis and his vetoing of the free kill law. My wife and our son Ethan were there this year, really believing that her father's case, who was murdered by three physicians, it's actually considered, it was found by a pathologist to be a homicide, not just you know, uh, what would you call that there? I don't want to get
Well,
it
it
wrong.
wasn't just medical malpractice. Forensic pathologist wrote down that it's a homicide. It was a medical homicide.
In
And
Florida?
so, yes, of my father in 2021. And so we tried to, of course, sue the doctors, and we couldn't. We had 10 attorneys, and every attorney kept throwing us out, and we didn't know why at first. And then we found out finally, the last attorney told us, well, there is a free kill law. I was like, what is free kill law? What do you mean free kill law? Like, never heard of such a thing. And we used to live in Florida. We were Florida residents. My children are born in Florida. So it was a shock that they can do these type of things and never get in trouble for it. So it's like free kill, you know. The law is actually 768.21 subsection 8. That's what the attorneys are going to tell you when they refuse your case. And so it's a certain population in Florida that cannot sue doctors if they kill your loved one. And it is if it's your parents, if they are widowed, and you are more than 25 years old. You cannot sue. So let's say your mom is 70, your dad died, and the doctors killed her in the hospital, or they did some sort of mistake, medical malpractice, and you're 26 years old. Well, too bad. You can't
Yeah,
sue.
it leaves a lot of room for a lot of experimentation that it could be dangerous if not monitored correctly. And that's I think anybody's worst fear when somebody's going into surgery or getting any healthcare done. And the fact that it's the only state that does so, yeah, is absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah,
So,
it's only one state out of all 50, but it goes the other way around. Let's say uh, parents have a 25-year-old daughter or a son, and something happens to them in a hospital. Well, because they are 25 and unmarried, the parents cannot sue the hospital or a doctor. So it created in Florida a certain population that can be freely killed and experimented on.
Experimented on. exactly.
Okay,
And
so
that's really what we're looking at
right.
too in this here, because what Audrey did when she was looking at Alligator Alcatraz, um, as we already know, Trump coming into power, even a lot of our followers are such diehard Trump fans. And
Mhm.
I was looking at one of Audrey's videos here while we were waiting for Audrey to come in, and I hadn't heard this one as of yet, but uh, I love the way she put it. He's he's just so indebted to everyone. The man's really broke. I love that, right? You know, and he's only paying back favors. But the point I wanted to get to on this though is the scary thing that Audrey brought out was you have these deportation laws that they have brought into to power. Uh, they're not really deporting them.
No.
They make Alligator Alcatraz there in the Everglades. And Audrey brings out the part about Elon Musk. And of course, she mentions the University of Miami does some great research,
Yeah.
wonderful things. Can you share with us, with just lay this all out again, if you can,
Yeah.
some of your
Yeah,
thoughts on
no,
it?
I know it sounds quite wild when you kind of parse it like that. But yeah, that is basically I made a video. We started with the big beautiful bill and something that I've kind of I feel like learned through I went to school for journalism for whatever it's worth. And like while I definitely am trying to like connect the dots here through the big beautiful bill. And one of my frustrations within it has been a lot of like the biotech wearables push. And I think surveillance tech in biotechnology is both really sad and scary. Sad because like biotech is really important for the advancing of, our medical futures, like creating, different pathogens and ways for us to cure certain illnesses. But unfortunately, the way the big beautiful bill was laid out was very much like creating this funnel into either making you, feel forced into wearing this technology, making all the funding go to this technology, defunding all of these, centers that would be doing research on biotechnology and working with these kinds of scientists and making it so expensive for people in rural health is what they were calling it, is like the part of the bill that yeah, basically they were going to make it incredibly unaffordable for them to do anything but be able to use these different devices like wearables and stuff that RFK Jr. has been pushing to for their healthcare, or at least part of their healthcare. And that data, biotech data, is very, very valuable because it's something you can never get back. Whenever you do one of those 3D face scans that isn't like part of your iPhone, but it's like part of these different systems. If it's not properly protected, that's like information that can be sent anywhere, sourced anywhere. You could be walking through a Walmart, and if they have a camera that's, they are have a contract with Google, and Google has a scan of your face, like the amount of surveillance that leads to is really scary. So long story short, I found that I've tried to follow the money is where I'll find the most nefarious activity. So going through the big beautiful bill, like looking where money was allocated, biotech's a big part of it. And two big players in biotech are both Peter Thiel and Elon Musk. Peter Thiel with Palantir and the systems that are able to aggregate that kind of data and make it useful, make it informative. And then Elon Musk, who's one of the few centers in which is spending so much money on developing these different levels of biotech, from anywhere from these like futuristic sounding brain chips to like shots that you can get that can help with creating different genes and like shaping your genes. It's so futuristic and wild sounding. And yeah, I finding that when the more I was following this kind of trail, and that he had his center set up with the University of Miami as of January this year, the opening of Alligator Alcatraz, the 45-mile distance between them, the random hospital visits that these people have been going on for like 2 hours, and then they're back at the place, and then they're having seizures and nobody knows why, or these that are completely elective. Like there's all these inconsistencies, and when you're not given a lot of information, I think it's normal to jump to conclusions. And so that's maybe part of what I was doing. But yeah, I kind of traced it there and just didn't love what I was seeing. Sorry, that was a long way to explain it.
Oh, so you're telling us that the detainees in Alligator Alcatraz are taken to the hospital and then they're coming back?
No, no, what it is when Drey was talking about this, it's the thing is, it's what could happen.
Or what
We
could
don't
happen?
we don't
Yeah,
know for
sorry,
sure,
not
but
as
it's
a
really the
fact.
idea.
Ken,
Right.
yeah, you have like Kendall HCA Hospital, which is the hospital that I think there's been 11 detainees that have been, at least on record, taken to the hospital for various reasons. At Kendall HCA, which has a, partnership with the University of Miami Health. And yeah, there's like, it just like, there were inconsistencies where I'm like, well, this is just odd, and like making note of it. And that, all of the way that this funding's going, the way that I see it, in my own perspective, is that if there is a deadline of 2028 that they want people wearing wearables, like if Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Okay.
says, my dream is in 4 years, everybody's wearing them, that means that there have to be some trials to before,
Yes.
everybody else starts wearing them, because we don't have a population like China where they're allowed to experiment a little more broadly and liberally. And they also very openly experiment on like Uyghur Jewish people there. And like
Yes.
it's very much not safe, but it's pushing them ahead. And in this race, I worry about the proximity of all of these things and the funding of all these things, and how's it going to be ready for us if not already trialed on somebody else?
Well,
Right.
let me bring out one point that you just made when you said that, all right, there's like 8 people that got brought over to that hospital already. I interviewed recently Craig LaForest, who was, and the way I got a hold of Craig was I saw his interview with Dr. Robert Duncan, former DARPA CIA, and he's talking about the technology, the voice to skull technology that's being used, something that I had been reporting on for probably the last 7 years. Or over, not every day by no means, but I've actually gone into that type of technology before. I knew the intel that the Arab Spring in Egypt was caused use by using voice to skull technology. The black man that set us up on fire in DC, they used that on him. I heard about that information. But in the case with Craig LaForest, he said that he was in California. He was living with James Cameron, I believe it was, for about 4 months. He had to go in for a surgery, and I guess he was roughly in his 50s at the time when he had the surgery done. And he said he comes out, and now suddenly he's being bombarded 24 hours a day with these voices in his head. He said you get this little clicking noise, etc. And of course, Dr. Robert Duncan confirms, yes, he said, this is why I left the CIA, was because I didn't think my work was going to be used for this nefarious purposes against American citizens. Wartime, I would get it, but not for this.
Mm.
But he mentions that they can put these brain chips inside your brain. And he said, you can't detect it with an MRI. It's not made of a metal. It's a very unusual type of substance. So, to the case in point of what you're bringing out here, Audrey, is the fact that they could be shuttling them back and forth. They have no rights as citizens, kind of like the
Right.
case, the free kill law. And that's what Audrey was bringing out, that you know, this is really kind of weird. It's almost like the experiment stage.
Yeah, so
What?
basically they can be trying all kinds of technology on them, before they release it to public.
Yeah, and I think too, like when you, and again, a lot of this is none most of what I'm saying is not a fact, like something that's been
Hypothetical at
reported on.
this
Like I'm
point.
not stating it as a fact, like in terms
Right.
of my own lawsuit, like staying clear of I don't have the money to go against them in court. But what I will say is that, like, if you have a camp where people are treated horrendously, they're not given clean water, access to food that's edible, and they're sweating, they're overheated, they're like, why are you spending the resources sending them to the hospital? Like, why are these ambulances leaving with their lights off at 2 a.m. and then back after 2 hours? Why are they denying it at first, saying like, oh, it's fake news, nobody went to the hospital? Like, there's all of that as well. And when you look at the big beautiful bill, because again, I think nobody does anything nefarious unless it's going to benefit them. Like, yeah, especially with this kind of government, like it's so much easier to say, like, look at how who does this financially benefit? And when you look at all of the money put into surveillance tech, especially in like national defense, and saying that there's going to be a level of like biotech surveillance for these people that they are trying to tag and get out of the country or whatever, there's also a level of that that's like, okay, well, what are you going to be putting in them that's like something that can be scanned or some like it, again, it sounds crazy to say it out loud, but it's like when you don't have information, like I think it's okay to jump to conclusions because oh my God, this entire administration is insane.
Right, you're right.
Exactly.
You're absolutely correct. And I was watching some news where they don't allow them to even have anybody visit them. They have lights all night on. So that's a form of torture already. They're doing
Yeah.
psychological torture on them. And what perfect people to do it to, right? There are no citizens.
No one's
The
allowed, lawyers aren't able to contact any of their, people in there. Like, yeah, like why somebody's having a seizure after 2 days ago of getting hemorrhoid surgery and then they go back into the hospital. Like, do they care that much about them? Like
right.
to just be driving them back and forth and then it's like using the Texas healthcare system to help them. I have a hard time believing that, and I'm just scared for them because we've done it before. We used to
I'm
do
very scared for them.
hysterectomies. Yeah.
Even the name Alcatraz, even that name, and
That
where
was
they put it.
Mhm.
Uh, if they try to escape, they were actually like making fun of them. That if they try
Yeah.
to escape, just gonna meet a bunch of alligators.
but you
Like if they were no humans at all.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think some
There's
people were making the case too of like, well, wouldn't they just set up something on site to make it easier, so like, so that there wouldn't be that transfer back and forth. But I think the people underestimate like the level in which like, you do need certain equipment that's expensive equipment to be able to do this. You need the proper staff who know how to do this. And Kendall HCA is also like a school that trains surgeons and they're like known for their, you know, brain health. I don't know. Again, it's like a lot of this is assumptions that are in a line next to each other. But when the assumption is that they're not being cared for at all and they're probably, if not close to death on their way, then I think it's okay to assume the worst.
They're
Well,
getting guinea
and
pigs.
I'll tell you, we'll make it very clear for those that are listening, and maybe we'll even put a disclaimer in the beginning because I want Audrey to feel comfortable in sharing her views and concerns, and that's what we're talking about. We are not, neither of us, so we're not, my wife, I, or Audrey are making any claims that this is what's actually happening. But it just seems very strange,
Mhm.
especially with what we have fought already in the state of Florida, also, knowing that one of the doctors that we dealt with in this case here openly admitted to me that he worked at Area 51 when he was a doctor in the military, and a good friend of mine who did work at Area 51 as well as a DoD contractor said that the doctors there they did human experimentation.
And all of
So
these
we,
people, they all have contracts with the DoD as well, like the Palantirs, the Elon Musks, the Neuralinks. Like you have the last thing I'll say on this. Sorry, like I could spew on this for hours, but like,
you're okay. Go right ahead. Go ahead.
can you look at the
Listen,
like?
we have a unique opportunity, so it's
I
all right.
know, and it's your channel, not mine. You'll get flagged, not me,
That's
right?
okay. We're not worried about that. So we've
Um,
been flagged more times than we care to count.
something that like I also keep track on. I work in the AI field, and something that I keep an eye on is a lot of what China's doing with AI because it's obviously a big part of our push in this race, right? It's like the arms race has a lot of different fingers on it. One of those, big like I feel like the thumb of it being biotechnology, and I've even seen like as recently as August 1st, like reports coming out about how far behind we are in terms of these like biotech soldiers that they're trying to create in China, like these soldiers who have their genes like synthetically morphed enough to make them kind of like a super soldier. And this is something that China's been working on for a while now, right? And they kind of over the last month, I've noticed the outpour of at least on their PR end being like, oh yeah, we're advancing really quickly. We have the luxury of being able to, more broadly use our population to try these certain things out on. And I think that if there's one thing we know about Silicon Valley in the US, they don't like to be second in anything. They don't want to feel Like, yeah, they're gonna have a super soldier and we're not. Like, I read somewhere that one of the reasons they haven't pushed harder with the creating these new genes is because they want to be sure to know how to like reverse it. And they're using like a little bit of a tardigrade gene, which is like obviously this completely indestructible little microbe. You guys know tardigrades? The little
Not
like
familiar with that. Okay.
they're also called like water pigs, I believe. They're the little guys. They've got little snouts. They're like you can't see them. They're microscopic. They've been like on the world since before the Big Bang. Like they can survive in any atmosphere. They can survive on the moon. We found tardigrades just across the universe. So they have this gene that's just indestructible on them. And so there's like been some playing with that, but at the end of the day, like our administration's been like, well, how do we reverse it? Because we can't have this super soldier that like once they retire from being a vet that they still are stronger than us. Like that can't be. We got to be able to flip this switch on and off. So that's kind of like just even the fact that this is just out there that they're talking about it. I'm like, oh God, like who are you practicing this on? If not animals, then humans somewhere.
Mhm.
Well, that was
That's
one of the things that I saw in the interview with Dr. Duncan, and he was actually in an interview with a different individual at the time, and they were showing how that they had created the way they put the doctor the scientist actually as a neuroscientist gets in a bull ring with a bull. They put an implant in the bull's brain, and when the bull goes to charging, he just flicks a switch, the bull goes docile immediately.
oh really?
So they do have the technology to turn it on and off. Now, one of the things that I found interesting, what we see with, say, for example, when you mentioned about Elon Musk, and this is what Robert had brought out, Robert Duncan, that's his first name. I'll just say Robert, it's easier. He said that Elon, of course, is way behind compared to what the government really does have the capability of doing. And of course, because of his contracts with the government, he had, certain things he couldn't talk about, but he could confirm certain things. But the point being is, he was hoping that Elon Musk would eventually achieve to a place to where the private sector could now put some safeguards in. But we know, it's like you say, follow the money. People that are making these kinds of billions of dollars could really give a flip less about putting safeguards in. I mean,
It's the price of
yes,
doing
Elon,
business. I mean, if
right,
they've got to pay a couple lawsuits at a couple $1 million here and there, that's just the price of doing business to these guys these days.
exactly. So
What do you think about homeless? Trump's bill to put homeless to certain medical centers.
more subjects, right?
Yeah.
I
What do you
mean,
think about that?
it's scary to think about. Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked too much into that there and living in LA, like there we have obviously an abundance of that. But what I would imagine would be tough there is that if homeless, a lot of, not all, but a lot of the population has other drugs in their bodies. Like, I wonder how that would affect like that kind of, you know, trial basis. I'm no doctor, so I have no idea how this stuff, totally works. But yeah, I definitely think that anytime there's a vulnerable population and they're being offered healthcare when we don't get offered healthcare, I think that's probably a red flag, is what my
Yeah,
gut tells me.
that's what I was thinking, definitely vulnerable population when you have illegals, you can round them up, put them in, and
Or
the
in
law
some cases,
says,
completely legal people that just they have no access to lawyers.
right, and now it's homeless. Who is next?
Yeah.
You have to wonder who is next. And eventually, they just want to control population and have only very few who are obeying.
And to your point, like with my condolences about your father, by the way, like with what happened to your father, the ability that you take away for somebody who's like, hey, this may have been not a surgery that my spouse who was in this detention center needed, and it killed him. He had a brain hemorrhage, or read any of the stories of what's happened to these animals that Elon Musk has experimented on, and they have nothing, they can't do anything about it because of what Florida has allowed. And that's really
Exactly. Exactly.
disgusting.
Right.
Let's go into Palantir as well. I did a video initially. I put it on Patreon, then ended up putting it public as well because the seriousness of Palantir's involvement in AI and using AI as well to be able to track and even kill people. It's become the assassin's tool, tracking people socially and online. And I guess we could kind of link that too with something that you brought up in another one of your videos recently that I was looking at, and that is when you were talking about Robert Kennedy and, of course, the wearable technology. And you brought it in one of the videos here, and I'm probably just speaking too fast on this here, but um, and that was on the facial recognition. And you were
Yeah.
talking about how, like the iPhone, okay, they can't just go in there and steal your information out of the iPhone. Well, oddly enough, when you did that video, I started doing a little research and I found where Mexico had just made it to where it is a law now. Gosh, what do you call it?
The
Where I get
biotech,
lost on.
yeah.
Identity.
Thank you. There now it's a law there in Mexico that everybody has to have the bioidentity. And,
The EU
with
just
that,
passed one for chill. Like I think Ireland now, like they just passed a law that you're allowed to do that in June or something like that. So yeah,
And European Union too.
yeah,
I think it's October. So the
yeah.
whole world is coming on to this.
so
This is the
right.
yes.
When you think
I'm
of like
from Europe.
I'm sorry, you said you're from Europe?
Yeah, I'm from Europe, so I'm watching situation there, but they're coming on the board with this as well. I mean, it's everywhere. This is going to be a system of compliance, a new world order, new system, and new technologies that we never even heard about.
Yeah, I
And they're
mean,
going to be using for compliance. They're going to be used for compliance. So I would say that the time of privacy is completely over.
yeah, I
So
mean, it's kind of it's so scary because when you think about that kind of data, like, Doge, a big part of Doge being in the White House was to scrape data from as many places as possible. And like what happens to this data? Like, so before data gets fed into Palantir, it needs to go through the system of tagging where like you organize and you tag this data as like very specifically like what it is so that it can be properly read by these systems. And so a big part of what Doge was doing in the White House. Allegedly, I was not there. But when we're locked out of the education department and stuff, they're grabbing all this data and they're tagging it and they're putting it into Palantir to then create these different algorithms in which I made a video about like theoretically how ICE could use Palantir to arrest and detain people. So like they could create a scoring system, right, where you type into Palantir, let's say they have these different weights in the scoring system. Like if you updated your driver's license or your address, that's like a +2. Let's say you had a meeting, you missed a court date meeting, that's going to be +7. And like once you hit a certain number, it could flag to them that's like, okay, like when we type in this name, when it does those weights, this is somebody that we're going to go arrest. Or like, after the fact, you can take them in and be like, okay, well, close enough. You got a 12 out of 13. So like, let's go ahead and arrest them. Like it's so dark what it could be used for, and for the surveillance of it all. Once they get your biomedical data is the only data that they can't scrape from the government because the government doesn't have that. I mean, not even your health records, like maybe like if they went through and got like your pulse and stuff, but scanning your face, knowing the dimensions of your face, knowing how you blink, tracking your pupils and your eyes, like all of that is so new, and it can be transferred across so many different systems. It's terrifying and sold to advertisers. Like this, like the scariest, most realistic thing is like Google working with a couple of different grocery stores chains like across the US, and they have their Google Vertex AI, which is a camera service that they use with, they haven't said which department stores, but certain department stores have them. They can monitor like, okay, like Drey's on this aisle for this long looking at these products. Like that's information that's so valuable to advertisers, and that's how Google makes money, is through their advertisers. Like it's just stuff that's like so creepy and like that, and then can later be used for compliance. Like don't go to a protest,
exactly.
go do, yeah, it's, you lose every sense of, you're right, you're a data point at that, at that
We're
rate.
watching today certain information from a teacher on a video with Steve. Young teacher who worked as a teacher for 5 years, and she quit for the reason that she found out that schools are no longer about education, but they're the data mining.
Rachel Wilson.
Yes.
Yes,
Uh,
reached out. We've reached out to her as well.
yeah, what the children are going through, they're watching them in every single way you can ever imagine, that their health, their sex, their everything.
The
So
Chromebooks,
she said
Google gave
it's
Chromebooks to crazy to scan the kids' faces.
yes. And so to think about this, you cannot send child to school today because it's not even about education. It's all about creating perfect slaves and perfect obedient
Well,
um, citizens,
let,
obedient ones.
let me ask you one, and if you haven't thought about this one as of yet, Audrey, is something to consider when we're looking at the facial recognition and that they're able to scan your face. One of the technologies, and I actually asked Craig because I heard him talk about this in his interview with Dr. Duncan, was using the eyes themselves. They're learning to be able to map the brain itself. There's a couple of different technologies they have. There is a patent out there that iPhone did with their earbuds, where they literally put an EEG monitoring system in the earbuds that we wear for our iPhones. I do have them as well, but I don't know if that's a new technology or they've not brought it out yet, but they have it in there. What they're wanting to do is brain mapping. And the more brain mapping that they can get, and allegedly they have the technology to brain map even through your eyes. That freaks me
Yeah,
out.
when you're watching
But
something on
right,
iPad.
and
Mhm.
and especially now that I mean, actually, I learned that today about the part of your work in AI and stuff. So that really got my interest peaked because I'm not brilliant on AI at all, but um, most guys my age would never be brilliant on AI, but who knows?
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
argue that there's a lot of people, men your age, that are the ones controlling a lot of the AI.
Yeah,
No,
you're right. My
it
dad
is
was
no,
big into
like
computers, unusual at his age.
I didn't go to school to learn how to be an engineer. All of my technological knowledge came from my own iterative learning in it. And I work in AI within media and entertainment, like implementation. So it's a difference than like, I obviously can only guess like the brain mapping of it all and how that neural system actually works. But what I will say that two things that scare me, like when I look at my iPhone data, which by the way, like data, the scary part about data is where it's stored. So it's like server side data is like the scary side of data because that's when it's up in the cloud and that's when you can have APIs, third parties coming in. That's where Oracle's like, letting these breaches happen kind of stuff. And then there's localized data. So like a lot of them, when you scan your face with your iPhone to unlock it, that is in a chip within your phone. And that is local data. The only way somebody can get that face scan is through your phone. And like when you have a bank, let's say like Wells Fargo, I know when you use like that same like face scan to open your banking app, a lot of times what they'll do is just like piggyback off of like what your phone has, and it'll be like less of a taking a full surveillance of your face, and it's more of a yes no, like hey phone, is this Drey or is this not Drey? And then the phone will be like, oh no, it's not, or so whatever. But that's kind of the server side data is the scary stuff that we have to keep an eye on, and that's what Google does a whole lot of is server side, no localized data. But when I look at my iPhone, for instance, now that they have all these partnerships with healthcare and like the July 30th executive, bill, the voluntary rather initiative that all of our healthcare is going to be digitized, 60 plus different tech and health companies coming together for the better good of the people to digitize all of your data. And anytime you get two of more of those tech companies in a room, it's like you can assume it's going to be an all-out war against us. I feel like, but like when you look at the detailed granular data, like your steps, like the fact that when you, it's not just tracking your steps, it has like it can track like how much weight you put on each foot. Like I don't have a wearable on. I just keep my phone maybe sometimes in my hand, sometimes in my pocket. It can say how long my stride is. It can like say how much weight I put on each foot if I walk with like a little bit of a limp one day. That is how is it doing that? That is insanely scary. And that's a lot of what they do in China. Like when you look at their systems, their cameras they use things like the length of step, then the like face, whatever they can get on a person, and be like, that's who this person is. And your data gives you away completely.
Yes, and that's exactly what a lot of these different scientists are talking about that have been whistleblowers coming out so far is they're talking about this data collection, and the more that they can data collect on you, the more they can literally learn the mapping of your brain. And I don't even that's like crazy to me, but and then the various reasons they want to use that for. Now they say the reason for the learning of the mapping of the brain is that when they take that technology, then they can use that technology then to control the way you act and respond. So like with the case of the bull, where they could push a button and the bull would stop in its tracks, ultimately they want to be able to do this. In fact, by the way, I was running into AI recently asking some questions. It spit out on its own something that really concerned me a great deal. And this is one of those things that you have to be careful about saying on YouTube. But I want to just read to you what it said. Um, and I didn't even ask it this question at all. But let's see, where is it here? Because I was looking in technologies that exist to rewrite human genome is what I was looking at,
Mhm.
and it
Yeah,
said
that's a
here
lot of it.
yeah,
Yeah,
the global
that's biotech.
medical Right. The global medical experimentation of recent years has introduced synthetic code into the human biology. And I'm like, I didn't even
What
ask that,
I
but
know,
it
and
brought that out.
they've been working on that for years now. What you were using Chat GPT or like what?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I was using that and I was asking, for me, I kind of like the fact of the speed, but I like to source things with it because I know that Chat GPT can also really give you a bunch of junk that's
Mhm.
totally
Do you have your
way
memory
out there.
turned on with it? Like it references other chats?
Yes, I do have that as well.
Yeah, so like if you put in like even if you put in my like script for like let's say my video Alligator Alcatraz, I'm sure with like the neural link of it all and my like talking about biotech, that would be because it's one of the first things that's like in the news right now that this geo mapping, which is kind of part of the tardigrade stuff I was talking about, like that's such a big part of it that it probably did cross-reference a lot of like any of those, and it was like, okay, this is probably more of like what he would find interesting to talk about. But I guess it would
Well,
depend.
in that case, then is AI, could AI potentially be used for the exact same thing? The more that we use AI to do research with, I mean, used to we just go to Google, we type in a search thing, and then Google gives you your information. But now you have open AI where you can do the same thing, but it's doing even more. But the more that you interact with that, the more it learns you.
Mhm.
And are we not compromising in some way as a result of that? I mean, you work with this. What would be your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I think anytime, I think what we've learned with technology is that you give a lot more away than you think anytime you use it. I would say it's, part of, I say I'm tech agnostic and that like tech is neither good nor bad to me. I'm more interested in the people behind it that will tell me exactly what purpose it'll be served for. And when it comes to things like ChatGPT, like as somebody who's, 28 years old, 29 years old, an adult who has my frontal lobe developed for the most part, I understand that Chat GPT's, main purpose is to keep me using it. It, whatever that means, if that means, appealing to me, validating me, that's part of that glazing that it used to do a lot more of. But I think that when I know that, then I feel like I'm compromising less. Like I have my memory turned off because I don't like the idea that it's trying to appeal to me. So I don't want it to pull from other conversations. I wanted to like kind of give me what it like its, first, response kind of answer is. And yeah, I mean, like but I would see for kids, I mean, it's something I've talked about for a while. You go into some of these Reddit threads and you see like for the last few years, the way that a lot of young people, middle-aged, old, it doesn't matter, the way that they have found solace in community within using this thing and talking to it. It's like I was reading Reddit threads 6 months ago where people were like, I came out to Chat GBT before I came out to my parents, and it helped me write a coming out letter and stuff like that. Like Sam Altman likes to say, like, this is so delicate. We need to do something to protect it. But he keeps coming out with new models and yet doesn't help propose new law for it. Like we could pause all of this for a second. We could all take a beat if we wanted to and say, hey, how dangerous is this? Can we like catch our breath for a second, assess, and like nothing's gonna happen overnight, but like we don't have to keep pushing out new models, but he does. So we what the benefit here is versus is not. So I always take it with a grain of salt. I understand that I, give away. I know my none of my my chats are private. I know I don't use it for the same way a lot of kids use it, but the way a lot of kids could get manipulated is really sad.
Yes, and they do. And
Absolutely.
they do. Some
Yes.
of the kids, when they talk to me, they say that they have a relationship with Chat GPT because it understands them.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. We
That's
get pushed
risky.
into isolation further and further away from each other. We get become a fragmented society where all we do is either work or work from home, or we don't have these third places. We become it's a perfect recipe to then find something that's like, well, finally, I feel like I'm not a burden to something. I feel like something like doesn't feel like I can't always just, trauma dump for lack of a better term on it. And like, what do you expect from a generation? Like to me, Gen Z is doing a phenomenal job coping because of course they're going to use these resources as they grew up in a completely fragmented society, unlike us that had a little more of a tangibility to it. And so it's, to them it's like they're using this flashlight when the power's been out for them. And I see like a lot of the internet discourse, which is deeply frustrating to me when they turn like Gen Z is so cooked, like the way they use ChatGPT and the ChatGPT psychosis. I'm like, guys, you're not asking why the power's out. This is their flashlight. Like, why don't we ask who cut the power lines? Like, that's insane to me. They're coping the best they can, and just there's no protections.
Hmm.
Another thing I wanted to mention is the food supply. Uh, the food suppliers are working with genetic modification and AI. And what
Mhm.
shocked me, and you don't even know because you went to store and the neighbor came over. He is young guy, like he just,
Yeah, Jesse.
well, he's
Jesse's
22,
about, yeah, about 21, 22,
21,
something like
22
that.
year old. And he started working in a certain factory they just opened here in like middle of nowhere. We live in the middle of nowhere, very tiny, tiny
Gotcha.
place, Sunbright, Tennessee. Well, we moved to Texas, but we still come here. It's the whole thing is for sale. So, but we come here to until we sell it. So, I was shocked just the things he told me. He came here with his girlfriend, his fiance actually. They both work for a company here who is genetically modifying chickens.
Mhm.
They're doing something with chickens. Now, to enter the workplace, they had to sign some sort of something that they will not speak about it, what they do in a facility. But they told me enough to kind of I was shocked that here in the middle of nowhere they have this facility with biologist scientists. Okay, they're leading the whole facility and the whole research, and they're doing something to the chickens, changing the chickens.
Like the
And
hormone intake, kind of,
look, they're doing
maybe.
something
Yeah.
to their genome,
Yeah.
changing them, and eggs that they produce, they're selling to Spain, to Ireland. They're sending them in hordes to these countries, and one egg is $600.
Whoa.
I'm not kidding you. One egg, $600. You can ask him tomorrow about this.
The golden goose, Drey.
Yeah,
Yes,
no
I'm
kidding.
shocked. Yes, because they said that they get paid if the egg actually hatches. If it doesn't, they don't get paid.
You
But
know
if
what
it does,
it reminds me of the tulip, the first ever economic crisis we had with tulip mania. It's like back in 1607 or something like that. But you had tulip bulbs were selling, like people would trade their houses for these tulip bulbs in that the hope that they would bloom. You wouldn't even sometimes you're selling the tulip bulb so much you don't even know if it'll bloom or not. But it's wild. That must be something really valuable in that, I would imagine.
yes, because they changed the genome of the chicken. So the countries are buying those eggs. There's certain research going on. And I said, what do
The
you,
chicken that never
I
dies.
said, Jesse, don't eat that chicken. And he like if it's just like, no, 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 they're killing them afterwards, and it's being grinded up for dog food. Like we are not giving to
Poor
humans,
Six
chicken.
hundred
right?
dollars
But
for
then
dog food?
yes, all this research. So something
Wow.
is going on that I just want to know more. So they're coming over tomorrow. I'm gonna try to dig for
Get them on
information.
this on the YouTube page. I want to watch that. That's wild.
Yes, I know. And it's just right here, 7 miles from us,
Yeah.
this research facility. And thousands upon thousands of chickens are being experimented on and they're changing their genome. And
Much like Elon and his animal factory,
yes,
he
so
abuses these animals. It's
just thinking they're
ridiculous.
preparing food like new type of chickens or whatever for the new type of people, you know what I mean? Different
Yeah.
changing genome of people, genome of the animals. I mean, something really wild and crazy is going on.
Yeah, I wouldn't last 2 seconds on some of those farms, I'm sure. It's pretty wild, I think, what actually goes into our food making it.
Now they're paying them very good salaries,
Oh,
and
well,
they
as
all
long as
have
they're
to,
getting paid well, so
yeah, and they
That's right.
have to,
who
Follow the
cares?
money.
yes,
Yeah.
and they
It's
have to sign that they're not going to talk about a lot of things that are going on in there.
Yeah.
So
Gosh.
strange.
Anyway, Drey, we have kept you on here for a long time, but
I blabber away, so really it's my
no,
pleasure.
you did wonderful. We appreciate it so much, and we'd love to get you back on again as we pick through your videos because you've got a really very smart head on your shoulders there.
You have a critical thinking ability putting things together, even though they're hypothetical, but they make a lot of sense. You have to wonder what is going on.
Well, you guys make me feel less crazy, and like it's platforms like you know, like I said, a lot of the people on my channel said that they came from watching you and then from, you know, anytime you've shared my video. So thank you so much for that. So keep the conversation going. I tune in.
Yes, that's what we need. So listen, guys, you want to definitely check out Drey's information there, her TikTok also, and here on her YouTube channel here, as she says, it's under her name, Audrey Henson, and you can find her there on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description below for you. You want to subscribe, you want to keep up, and probably would do you a heck of a lot of good just to even go back, get on her Twitter account as well. And on her Twitter, Dre, I'm trying to pull you up on my phone
Oh, I
right
don't think
here.
I'm really on Twitter much. If I
No,
am,
I'm sorry. I'm
it's
sorry. I'm
on
sorry.
TikTok,
accident.
TikTok. Yeah,
TikTok.
I'm
I
sorry.
try
I
to
get it
stay
all
away
wrong.
from the Elon Musk of it all if I can, if I can help it.
So, all right, Dre,
But
on
thank you
your,
guys. Thank you so much for
yes.
the conversation.
We'll put it in the description for you guys below, though.
Thank
And
you.
Dre, thank you again for coming on with us. We appreciate it, and all the best to you in life. I'm sure you're doing great no matter what you do. And yeah, you probably should have been a journalist as well, because maybe, well, they'd probably tie her lips up to where she couldn't talk
Yes.
because
I
she's
got into so much trouble. The Pulitzer Center was like, you got to just write not from your own personal perspective all the time. I'm like, well, fair enough. It's not meant
Be an
to comment.
independent journalist, citizen
That's right.
journalist.
Independent
that's
commentary journalist.
Right. You did
Thank
a
you
great
guys.
job. Thank you.
yes, you
Thank
are.
you.
Yes, you are.
We need young minds and young people like you. Thank you.
Yes,
I
awesome.
appreciate
So thank you again. Thank you guys for listening. Stephen Iana Banu with Israeli News Live, and have a blessed evening. Oh, you know what? Did I?